If you've ever come back from a photo shoot, looked at your photos on the computer, and then thought, wow, these are all terrible, before you delete them, try these tips. I recently went to Bloedel Conservatory with my family, and the focus wasn't supposed to be photography, but I ended up shooting a POV video. The video totally didn't work at all, but I got some images from that day. I've selected 10 of them that I'm gonna show you. So we're hopping into Lightroom. The first thing I do to any photo is I like to crop. I use the crop because when you take the photo, sometimes there's things in the edges, there's things on the corners that you didn't want, but you didn't see when you took it. I was shooting on my 35mm prime, and this parrot was about 20 feet away, but I couldn't get close enough to it, so this is the photo I got. This is the crop I ended up with. It eliminated all of this top section I didn't like, and it eliminated all of the bottom section, which I didn't like. So it focused right in the middle. The most important factor in cropping to this degree is the photo needs to be in focus. If it's not in focus, it's just gonna emphasize how out of focus it is the more you crop in. Another example is this flower, this red flower. The problem with it is it's out of focus. So instead of deleting this image, I've reframed to a different section that ended up being in focus. And so I can act like this was an intentional photo, even though the subject originally was the flower. Crop your photos, they will look 100% better. Another way you can recover or save a photo is you can convert it to black and white. The reason you might do this is because the colors didn't turn out right, or the colors are distracting, or you'd like a cleaner frame. The major benefit of this is it takes all your color away, so you can really focus on the textures or the contrast in the image. And I've done this on 3 of the photos that I took on this day. The biggest thing with black and white is I'll generally increase contrast much more than I would on a color photo. One way to do this is by upping the contrast slider. This is an easy way to do it because it will just increase highlights and decrease shadows simultaneously, or you can even go in and tweak the blacks and whites of the exposure. By doing this, I've made the image much more black and white than gray. Tip 3 is using the masking and the healing tool. I use the masking a lot to change exposure on certain parts of the image. That will bring up exposure on the subject, and it'll bring down the exposure on the surroundings that are not as important. The biggest masks that I use for my photos are linear gradients, radial gradients, and then I'll use brushing intermittently to touch up certain areas. And so those 3 masks are very important to get the images I want. Now, the most extreme edit that I did was probably this koi fish. I wanted this fish to be more interacting with the plant in the foreground, but when I took the photo, it had swam too far away. What I did in this case is I clone stamped it down a little bit closer to the plant so that I could maintain the plant and also have the fish closer, because I didn't like this gap that was formed between them. This works in a lot of cases on clean backgrounds. You need something where there's not a lot of busyness going on in the background. Otherwise, it can be quite obvious that you've clone stamped something in. Take these tips, implement them on your own photos, and hopefully you can take a group of photos that you otherwise may have deleted and you can put them to use. And in this case, I used them for my Instagram grid. You can see the 10 photos that I'm referencing in this video. If you have any questions that I didn't cover, put them down in the comments below. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one.